They don't get it. They just don't get it. Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they don't understand why you don't like them. They don't understand why you're not dreaming, why you're not clamoring for a double dose of wiener. They have tried to make the woke wiener appealing. They've even come up with different sizes. The teeny weenie for beginners, the standard size wiener for the novice, and the mighty weenie for those with an affinity for the Bruce Caboose. But you will not accept it. And it is destroying their confidence. Your rejection of the woke wiener, it is keeping them up at night. They have brought in so-called experts to see if they could give them answers. They tried to hire Aunt Fauci, but no one can seem to find him. Has anyone seen Aunt Fauci lately? For 2 or 3 years, Aunt Fauci was the biggest star on television. Now, he is not even attending Sunday morning services at Woke United Methodist. It's like Aunt Fauci went into hiding. I wonder why. The deacons, they hired Joy Reid to see if she could give them some answers. Obviously, the balding beauty came back with the conclusion that mythical racism is the reason for young men rejecting them. Surprisingly enough, the deacons didn't believe it this time. They refused to believe it was mythical racism because they are losing support with minorities. This week, the deacons finally decided to hire a real expert. They finally decided to hire someone that could give them answers. Unfortunately for the deacons, the answer not only offended them, it had them questioning their own feeble masculinity. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you happen to stumble upon this video, be sure to check out my main channel, Behind the Line. Link to the main channels in the description below. This week, the deacons organized a seminar at the University of Chicago, also known as Woke U Midwest. The goal of the seminar was to answer one painful question. Why are young men rejecting us? Why are young men attracted to young women instead of being attracted to the G's in LGBT? You want to know how you can tell this panel was put together by the deacons? The panel was gender diverse. In order to answer questions about young men, in order to get inside the minds of young men, the deacons, they felt the need to include 2 women on the panel. What? Excuse me? No wonder you can't get answers. No wonder you are struggling to figure this out. What the hell can women tell you about the experience of young men in America? What the hell can women tell you about what men want? Hell, what can women tell you about what women want? If you want to figure out the complexities of women, who should you ask? I don't know. I'm asking you. Well, that is misogyny. No, that is reality. Humans have existed on this planet for thousands of years. In that time, we have been able to answer a lot of questions, but the question, what do women want? It is still an unsolved mystery. The deacons, they did get one thing right with this panel. They decided to include a real expert on men, someone who grew up in America as a young man, someone who has experience, someone who is raising other young men. Well, Uncle KC, were you included as an expert on this panel? No, but if I was there, I would have given the exact same answer that Clay Travis did. When the question was asked, the moderator, she naturally went to the young woman on the panel first to answer a question about young men. Obviously, she wasn't qualified to answer the question, so after listening to her bloviate for a few minutes, the moderator finally went to Clay Travis to get a real answer. Why are young men abandoning the Democrats? Why are young men so enamored by the Trumper? Listen to the response from Clay Travis, and I want you to pay very close attention. When he brings up Pete Buttigieg, pay very close attention to the default response from the young woman. It's almost like she has been trained to be offended. It's almost like she's been indoctrinated. Watch for yourself.
Men aspire to be bigger, stronger, and faster than we are, almost universally. That's why superheroes are popular. That's why pro athletes are popular. Who is the most masculine Democrat right now in America? Mayor Pete.
Is that a gay joke?
No. Mayor Pete. No. Well, no, it's just that he's not particularly masculine. Nobody's like, oh, Mayor Pete, he's a badass. Chuck Schumer. Is anybody like, hey, Chuck Schumer holding up an avocado and a beer to talk about the Super Bowl? Is anybody like that trying to grill? Is anybody like, hey, that's a dude I want to hang out with?
But Trump's like a grandpa.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Trump took a bullet in his ear and immediately stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. Every man in America and most of the women out here were impressed by that, even if the women won't admit it. She's shaking her head strong. And second part of this, basically summing it up, Democrats for men are pussies.
Let me ask you something. First of all, excellent response from Clay Travis. He's absolutely right. But let me ask you something. When he mentioned Pete Buttigieg being cured of his toxic masculinity, the default response from the woke woman on the panel was, is that a gay joke? Are you making fun of the G's? That is unacceptable! You were sitting right next to him. You were in the moment. You had full context of the conversation. You know Clay Travis wasn't joking. He was being serious. Pete Buttigieg is not an example of masculinity. But what if it was? What if it was a joke? Why would you be offended by it? Why is your default response to be offended anytime a joke is made about someone that you would classify as marginalized? You know what I think is offensive? Taking a fully capable man or a fully capable woman and claiming that they're marginalized, claiming that they're the ultimate victim because of their race or their sexual orientation. To me, that is offensive because you're basically telling them that they're broken. You're telling them that they're underprivileged because Pete likes Peter. We have got to move past this. You want to know why men have abandoned the Democrats? This is the reason why. We are raising a generation to think that they're not allowed to have hurt feelings. We are raising a generation to think that the meanies are the problem. What you're really doing is robbing them of growth. The only way to grow is to go through pain. And this is why we have 30-year-olds living at home with their parents. They never grew up because they didn't have to. When I was growing up, you know how many times my dad got involved when I had a problem with another kid? If some kid was threatening to kick my ass, you know how many times my dad got involved? None. He told me, defend yourself, because he knew he wasn't always going to be around. He knew if I refused to defend myself at 9, I would be afraid to defend myself at 29. Democrats want men to be sensitive. They want men to express their feelings, which is the exact opposite of masculinity. Men are not supposed to be sensitive. That's the woman's job. Last night, my daughter got roughed up in her soccer game. Ankles swollen, cuts and bruises all over her legs. When she got in the car, she showed me her war wounds, for lack of a better term. My ankle hurts. My legs are cut. I said, toughen up. Put some ice on it. You got a game on Monday. We got home. First thing her mom does, oh, baby, are you okay? Do you need some Neosporin? Which is fine. Fine. That's what mom is for. The point is, kids need both. They need both perspectives. They don't need a feminine dad along with a feminine mom. But give me your thoughts on this. Clay Travis teaches Democrats about masculinity, and their default response is to be offended. Then they wonder why men are rejecting their party. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys on the main channel.